like when it's on Jeff's channel. It's like you already know his channel because most people are going to be seeing this, going to be seeing it on Jeff's channel, the SP Spaz, right? Because it's unlisted at the moment on mine. So yeah, just going out.
See, when I was going back through those old reviews, to put them on my channel, that's kind of what I was talking about. A lot of those early ones, you start out kind of like you did this one, where you're kind of sounding like you're in the middle of a sentence or you just realize something. And so instead of like introducing the actual show, you're just kind of mumbling about something.
Yeah, and so this actual show, well, I sort of think like, it's in the title. So we are reviewing this.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean that you don't like everything's got a title. The Twilight Zone is in the title, but he still says the Twilight Zone several times.
Okay. So yeah,
just go. It's in the title, so look it up.
Right. Yeah, but I'll scan things for people though. I'll still put the effort in. Right, here we go. So as you can see there, I've even highlighted the writer when it's different from Rod Serling.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is season 1, episode 36, A World of His Own.
And not just that, the final episode of the season.
Yes, the final episode of season 1.
Right, I'll try.
Broadcast July 1st, 1960.
Right. I'm going to try and do the
Back
voice.
when there were real TV seasons that lasted that long instead of these like 9 or 10 episode excuses they call seasons nowadays.
Yeah, and all the episodes better be gold if you're going to do that.
Yeah, and then you wait like a year before the next one.
Oh, I don't mind the idea of do 10 episodes, have a break for a month or two, and then do another 10 episodes.
Yeah, a month or two is not bad, but when they're like wait a year before the next one, it's like and you're just asking for the audience to disappear on you. All right, anyway.
So, the home of Mr. Gregory West, one of America's most noted playwrights. The office of Mr. Gregory West. Mr. Gregory West, shy, quiet, and at the moment quite very happy. Merry, warm, affectionate. And the final ingredient, Mrs. Gregory West. Now that kind of thing you don't really hear that much these days.
Yeah, and of
where
course
they actually
point out that the ... there, the pause there, that there was an actual like sort of scene in between those.
Yeah.
Because you had him actually interacting with Mary before Mrs. Gregory West shows up at the window.
Jeff, if you read through this, then you can stop wherever you like and comment on it.
Victoria West is surprised when she looks in the window of her husband's study and sees him sharing a drink with Mary, an attractive blonde. Unassuming by the guy's description, although I don't know what that means. Perhaps you can explain it to me later. But anyway. But she's even more surprised when she barges in a moment later and finds the woman gone without a trace. Gregory explains that simply by describing something or somebody into his dictation machine, he can cause that thing to materialize in his office. To make it disappear, all he need do is throw the tape in the fireplace. He demonstrates both these actions, first with Mary, and then when Victoria attempts to run off, with a full-grown elephant in the hallway. Despite the evidence of her own senses, Victoria informs Gregory she's convinced he's insane and intends to have him committed. In reply, Gregory removes an envelope from a wall safe. He tells her it contains the length of tape on which she is described. Actually, he doesn't tell her that, but he just starts pulling the tape out in the envelope marked her. So he says things that imply that, but he doesn't actually say that. But anyway. Believing none of this, Victoria snatches the envelope away from him and throws it on the fire. She has just enough time to register astonishment before she disappears. Gregory rushes to the tape machine and frantically waits for the page to turn.
Oh.
Begins to re-describe Victoria, then reconsiders and describes instead Mrs. Mary West, the loving and far less temperamental Mary appears contentedly mixing her husband a drink. And before you read that last part, I have to say that was the moment where I was like, this could have gone from a good to a great episode, because he could have just recreated Victoria differently. Instead, he brings Mary. But so I thought that was the perfect opportunity for him to be like, I thought it would have been funnier. It would have been better if he starts describing what he originally said for Victoria, but then he describes her as like obedient, trusting.
Yeah.
or basically gives her enough of the personality of Mary that he's like changing
Right.
her to do. Yeah.
Right, yes. So, because I think the actress that played Victoria was good enough to come back and play the character how Mary
Yeah, it could have
played
been
it.
kind of like that previous episode about the guy with the love potion where she changes,
Yes.
based on, she could have done that. I think that would have been more effective. That's just my opinion. But anyway.
Right, so, folks, I found unassuming in the dictionary.
Well, before you read that, I have to say that before you read that and before you read that final thing, I have to say before the closing by Rod Serling that's written there, it fails to mention that not pretentious or arrogant, but that's just kind of a weird word. I don't know why.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm assuming. Yeah. I mean, I had a vague idea what it probably meant, but I was just like, it's just kind of a weird term. But anyway, it doesn't say, like, in the book, at least in that spot, that Rod Serling himself appears in the episode, in the actual scene, which I think was the first time that happened.
Yep.
That he's actually a character in the show. And so he's also created by Mr. Gregory West. So we know the true creator of Twilight Zone.
Yeah, and I like that line. I didn't quite catch it at first, but then when I watched it, the end of it, because I copied that bit when he said, and he says, and apparently in complete control of the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. So yeah, this was a fun episode, but not the very best, because I think the ones that we were talking earlier about off camera about Doctor Who and the difference between the problems with the new Doctor Who series as compared to the old one, and there's a problem with tone. And I think, to me, the very best Twilight Zones have a more serious tone, even if there's some humor in there. It seems like in the last few of this season, they were really kind of punching up the humorous aspect, which, again, I obviously don't have a problem with. I like comedy, but there's still something kind of missing with that, that you don't quite have the coolness of some of the more kind of spooky Twilight Zones. So.
I mean, I even wrote down for the first. I actually thought the first 9 minutes were quite poor in terms of dialogue, and then it got a lot better. I just thought with the interaction. So yeah, what about that? Would you like that magic power?
Sure. Yeah, this is another one where it was easy to like put yourself in the character shoes and like, what would you use this power to create? Because obviously, and this is not the only show that's explored that concept. And I don't remember what all shows and movies and things have, books have had that in them, and so I don't know who was the first. So I can't say this took inspiration from any particular thing or something else later took it from this. But I know that I've obviously seen and heard other things with that same kind of concept of an author that could make their creations come to life.
The thing is,
but it's always a fun concept.
When you go back through because I've read a book on sort of like, they call it meta fiction. It's been a tendency that's been there all along. Like everyone every now and then will do a story which is meta, but it's how you do it. So for example, in this one, the characters were independent. Where yes, you've created them, but they are like, especially Victoria, she is independent and her own character. So the realism comes from the fact of she's real, even if she is a fictional character.
Right. The way
psychology is real.
It's not just that they come to life, but when he talks about the moment or the point at which they really are fully realized is when they start doing things he didn't tell them to do.
Yes.
And of course, because we don't see what happens next, we're just left to our own imagination, but we're left with the idea that eventually Mary will do that also, because they all do. So at some point, she will cease to be his loyal servant and start doing something else also, based on whatever it is he's created her.
But he may have written her as a loyal ISFJ guardian, though.
Yes, but even loyal ISFJ guardians can lose interest in their husbands, or depending on what happens in their life.
Fair enough. So there's a little similarities there, folks, with this play. There you go. All right. So I'll just say this, and then I'll go through the. Oh, we completely got this out of order because we should have been. Even Mr. Gregory West, still shy, quiet, very happy, and apparently in complete control of the Twilight Zone. And what I should have done is I should have done this and have it go through all of these episodes when I said, over to you, Jeff, tell us what you think of it. But I've got it completely out of order. So, what do you think of it, Jeff?
Well, I think I kind of already said that in some way.
Yeah, I mean, see, I should have done this before because then, so I should have had this slideshow on when you were saying what you thought of it, and then, because that's what we usually do, and then we go back to what he's written in the book.
Well, that's okay. We don't have to do everything exactly the same every time.
No, yeah, but it's just that I want to show these thing. I mean, it's going through it quite quickly in that it's like 1 a second, I believe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like basically I said, it's a fun episode.
Yeah.
It's not the best, but it's enjoyable. And I think there's a few choices they made. I think I would have gone in a different direction. And
right.
So it had the potential in different ways. One, to make it a little bit darker, than they did earlier. They could have kind of shifted the tone in terms of what he started to use that ability for, or what his wife did, what other characters did. There was potential for more. And obviously, this is a cast of 3. Obviously it saves them money, but I don't know how much money they had to spend on the elephant, but there was potential for more, if he decided, hey, creating more characters to interact with her will work better. Or there was a lot of different directions they could have taken it. So there's a lot of potential there, but it still works as a fun story for what it is. It's just, I can't help but feel like a little bit let down that there seemed to be a lot of other things they could have done that they didn't do.
I mean, these reactions from this actress, they're good, they're not over the top. I think she did a very good performance, the one playing Victoria.
Yeah, there's a little credibility loss for me that is just a matter of personal taste, that I didn't find the women attractive. And obviously they don't have to do that for me, but it obviously helps in terms of selling the idea. If he's talking about how perfect she is and how beautiful and how he can't live up to her, I'm thinking, I don't really think she looks that great, but
but you've still got to cast them, Jeff. You've got to find someone who can act and is good looking.
Well, right, but they've already shown they can do that on this show. So,
yeah. I mean, like the previous week, I remember you thought, was it the previous week or a few weeks before?
They've had some very attractive women on the show, but obviously that's one of those things that's personal taste. I mean, there's plenty of people I'm sure that probably thought she was better looking than the ones I liked. So that's just the way that goes. You can't please everybody with that.
Yeah, I did like that ending with. So now I was going to ask you about that. In the previous episode, did you see the ending where Rod Serling came on camera and said, "Hey, I'm in next week's episode"?
No, because it's not.
That's probably a good thing. Probably a good thing that you never saw that.
Yeah, it's not shown on the Amazon Prime version.
Right. So I don't know how similar they look.
There's somebody else he looks like, and I can't think of who I'm thinking of. But he reminded me of somebody else in his looks, but now I'm not drawing a blank on who I'm thinking. Might have been Dabney Coleman I was thinking of, because he does have a passing resemblance, but I think I was thinking of somebody else too, and I'm not sure who.
The weird thing is Dennis Miller called Eric Holder Stedman on when he was appear on the O'Reilly Factor. So yeah. Right, so we went through that, and then I'll go back to the. So Jeff, if you read through this, then you can disagree with bits and pull him up.
Blah 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 blah. Final episode of the first season, both in order of production and broadcast, was Richard Matheson's A World of His Own. This comedy about a playwright who can make his characters come to life by describing them into a dictaphone had a curious genesis. Matheson recalls, actually, the first outline I submitted was a serious one in which it became very nightmarish to him when his characters came to life. See, that's what I was thinking they could have done with it. But anyway, I guess it was a little melodramatic for them, so they suggested that I try to lighten it up, and I redid it as a comedy, which I think worked out well. The casting couldn't have been better. That's subjective. Again.
Yes.
Keenan Wynn as the playwright, Phyllis Kirk as his volatile wife, and Mary LaRoche as his long-suffering mistress. I don't know why I describe him as long-suffering, because she doesn't suffer. She just ceases to exist for periods of time.
Yep.
From start to finish, the episode is wonderfully funny and sophisticated. I kind of agree with you in that it's not necessarily funny from start to finish. It definitely has some lulls, but that overall it's fun. Director Ralph Nelson viewed his task, and rightly so, as akin to keeping one of those glass bubbles on top of a fountain. A world of his own employed one of the largest props used in any episode of the series. For one key scene, the playwright had to summon up an elephant in his hallway to block his wife from leaving the house. Rear projection or stock footage of an elephant just wouldn't be convincing. A real elephant had to be brought onto the set. Buck Houghton remembers the episode with amusement. I came around the stage corner, and there was the elephant, and the elephant man was having him go on his nose and then on his back legs and on his nose. I don't understand that, but...
Well, you'll find out in a moment.
Stood there wondering what this guy was beating this poor elephant to death for. Finally, he didn't give the next order. And he says, now he's good for 2 hours. So I went in and told Nelson, you've got 2 hours to use the elephant or we're in trouble. One of the series' finest jokes and a perfect capper to the first season was the final gag of the show. For this, Sterling makes his first on-camera appearance in an episode. Sterling...
Yeah, he sits on a desk. He doesn't stroll on.
And addresses the audience. We hope you enjoyed tonight's romantic story on the Twilight Zone. At the same time, we want you to realize that it was, of course, purely fictional. In real life, such ridiculous nonsense. Yeah, I'm not going to read that. That dialogue was kind of dumb, but
yeah, that could have been better.
Yeah, he walks over to the wall safe and pulls an envelope marked Rod Serling. And yeah, that's just where it gets kind of goofy, but like I said, it's still fun. But that's the kind of point where I'm just like, okay, this almost seems like it's their last episode, and it's the point where they tear the set down.
Yeah, it's almost as if they threw that together at the last moment, because if you're going to do that, there's so much opportunity for comedy gold in there in terms of lines. You get a little bit of a missed opportunity.
Yeah, and I guess, call me a spoil sport on this one if you want, but I guess to me it takes away from the kind of spooky, mysterious tone that they went for to kind of end the season like that. Like I said, just have the last few where you're kind of like petering out with, kind of sending up your own show. And I'm not saying that you can't do comedy episodes or you can't do that from time to time, but I think this one maybe went a little bit too far with that.
Yeah, as it says here, they only did it because it was the last episode.
Right, and I get that. And I don't know how much was actually, well, I guess I'll find out later, but how much time was actually in between seasons. But
I might have done it like this. I might have ran the credits and then put it on at the end, because then you could at least tell yourself, oh, it's outside of the episode.
Yeah, there's a number of ways they could have done that. Like there's some shows where they've run the episode and then they'll have like outtakes over the credits and things like that. There's ways to do it that maybe don't take away from, don't take you out of the story.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Still manage to accomplish sort of a, humorous wink to the camera kind of thing.
That's what I was saying before about Doctor Who. Is like, for me, what a good story is, whatever they do, completely absorb me into the story.
Right, yeah.
Don't take me. And Robert Holmes proved that you could be very funny without taking you out of it. You don't have to be.
The key is in creating characters that are humorous within the context of the story.
Now, I did like the line when he said, "She's 5 feet 6 inches tall, nicely built."
Yeah, that's another very subjective thing.
Yeah, well,
apparently his machine knows what his view of nicely built is.
Yeah, but I just thought it was funny because they had to be very careful in those days about how far they went.
Yeah.
I mean, he could.
Yeah, I'm sure it was already controversial for some people just to have the opening scene of, the woman is not his wife.
Yeah, I mean, they had rules in those days. I remember this about Lucille Ball, like, if there was a bed, there had to be at least 1 foot on the ground. something like that.
Yeah, and I think Brady Bunch was the first show, at least in the U.S., that the married couple actually shared the same bed. They showed them in bed together.
Yeah, rather than separate beds in the same room.
Yeah, still fully clothed, but they were in the same bed.
Or they go to bed and they're wearing a dressing gown and they sleep in that.
Yeah, no, I think they had some sort of pajamas on or something, but they still, were seen talking together in the same bed, which was like the first American TV show that actually showed that.
Did some spoofs like have them in bed and they open up and they're already wearing a dressing gown or something? And it's like they've slept in the dressing
I don't know,
gown.
probably. I remember there was a show in the early '90s called like "Hi Honey, I'm Home" or something that was sort of a parody of the like 50s sitcoms, and of course they had the two separate beds, and I think they made jokes about like pushing them further and further apart or whatever.
And what I would say, I mean, in terms of, we can talk more about that next week, but in terms of, they've had some strong female characters in the show. Like even when the main part is a male, they've had some women who will stand up for themselves.
Yeah.
In the show.
Yeah.
So this one still interests me because what would you conjure up then, Jeff, if you had that power?
I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities.
What would you start with?
I don't know. Like, just because Tina was my favorite soap opera character doesn't necessarily mean that's the first person I would conjure up. I would prefer a character I actually created as opposed to somebody else's.
Yeah. But like, would you conjure up like an ISFJ to do some cleaning or something, or
yeah, maybe. I at first in this apartment conjure up somebody who knows how to get rid of roaches and do that sort of thing.
Maybe that guy, Mr. Clean.
yeah. There you go.
Now that is a guy I would thought you could build a series around that guy.
Well, they kind of did, didn't they? Like, okay, like I haven't watched much of television in the last 10, 15 years, so I don't know all these new shows, but I've heard of shows. And I believe there was at least one show that was about a guy who was like a career criminal type of guy, but part of his trademark was he was very like neat and tidy or something. But I don't think I made that up. I think it did exist, but I don't remember the name or anything about it. So
was that like that cracking stuff? I don't know what it's called. This guy who was like growing weed in his house or something, or
I don't know. I don't.
My
knowledge is very limited of
Breaking Bad. Was that it? I don't know.
Well, that was a show.
Yeah, that was a show, but I never saw it.
Watched it, so I know very little about it. But I don't think that's what I was thinking of. But maybe it was. I don't know. But I know they did the show Monk. I saw a little bit of the beginning of that one. That was like a detective guy, but he was very, obsessive compulsive idea, whatever. Like, so they explored those factors,
and like how that was part of why he was a good detective, because he had this.
Yeah. So.
So we could give a preview to the audience of the little bits that we'll talk about when we do the season.
All right. Well,
overview.
First, I guess I'll go ahead and give this episode an 8.
I think that's what I gave it.
Its enjoyable parts far outweigh the parts that aren't.
Yep.
I think it had potential to be even better than that, but it was still a fun, enjoyable episode.
Yep. So both give it 8.
So next week, folks, we plan to do one of our wonderful season in review shows. We've never done one for quite this long a season, so hopefully we'll keep it, shorter than.
We'll have to budget some time, and I've got to do some preparation.
Yeah, we don't have to spend a long time, obviously, talking about each episode. We'll go through them pretty fast, and like you said, we can talk about kind of more of the general impressions of the season and stuff. Spend more time on that, so.
Yeah.
So we don't have to rehash a whole lot about each episode. So I think maybe I'll just go through and kind of pick out a few that, were my favorites, and maybe a couple that were my least favorites, and just mention those.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea, and go over those. Sort of like.
We don't have to We don't have to like revisit our scores for every single episode. 'Cause
Yeah,
that would take a
I
little-
remember. I think we did it at the end of Blake 7, at the end of Homicide, where we did our top 10
yeah.
episodes.
Yeah, obviously with this, it's 36 episodes, so we wouldn't need to do like a whole 10, but maybe like top 3 or something. Or
Well, I've written down my score, so I can at least go look through the book.
So
Although
I'll
the
go back
books,
and look at mine too. And everything. Just
Yeah,
off the top of my head, I remember a couple of them that were probably be the top 2 or 3. But
right, so Jeff. So this is what we're going to do, folks, in preparation for the next episode. I'm going to get the slides ready, and Jeff, hopefully, could write down all our scores.
well, you said you wrote down yours already, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So at least I won't have to worry about. I'll just have to find mine, so it won't take quite as long. Though most of the episodes we set them about the same time, so it shouldn't be too hard. But anyway.
Oh, I didn't. There's one where is everybody? I didn't put my own score down for that one, so I don't know that I've got them all. Anyway, I'll stop the broadcast.
Yeah, you can send me a message if there's any that you need to know, and I'll
Right. Okay. Right then, folks. Bye bye.
All right. See you next time.